I'm doing difficult questions that my kid asked me. The first one was from my 4-year-old son. He said, "Daddy, can I spend the night at your house?" And I said, "Oh, son, I wish you could. You can come visit and spend the day with Daddy. We'll read and play and watch a movie if you want. Just Daddy and son time. Just me and you, okay?" And then the second question was the one my daughter asked me. She's 11. And she said, "Daddy, how old will I be when you come home?" And I replied, "Honey, I know you're ready for me to come home, and I will one day. It might not be as soon as either one of us like. Sweetheart, I know you miss being with me, and I miss being with you too."
One of the toughest jobs we have as a parent is answering their difficult questions, those ones that we don't want to hear, especially if it's real personal toward us. So, for example, why did you want drugs more than me? Why aren't you and Daddy together anymore? Do you love me? Why haven't you been there for me? They can come up with some zingers, even at a very early age, and they can express them really emotionally and really with a lot of anger by the time they're teens, for sure. Has this already happened to any of you? Josh?
I had a situation a little while back in the visiting room. My son is 14, and he's kind of getting to that age, and so he asked me if I had ever used drugs, and I told him yes. I was honest with him, but I use it as an opportunity to lead into a couple of other conversations. One of them being that I started using drugs because of peer pressure and because I wanted to feel accepted by other kids, and it was something that it was very easy for me to have a peer group. And so I was able to use that as a way to explain to him that there are many other positive peer groups that he could be involved in that didn't have to involve drug use and that he could be accepted into. So we talked about being in the group of kids who play sports, or being in with the kids who have study groups at school and get good grades, and we talked about those positive things. I was also able to use it as a way to explain the negative effects, potential negative effects of being somebody involved in that lifestyle. And I explained to him how drugs played a part in me coming to prison, and that my getting in trouble was related to using drugs. And so that it wasn't just you could use drugs and it was cool and party scene type thing, but that oftentimes being a person who's involved in that crowd can lead you into a lot of other poor choices that could end up with you in prison.
Tough to hear that kind of a question coming from a 14-year-old son when you're here, because isn't our fear that, oh my gosh, I hope he doesn't want to do drugs, right?
I definitely don't want him to follow in my footsteps.
Or to follow in your footsteps and make some of the same mistakes that we made. So really tuning in and attending to our kids and listening to them and having answers. One thing I like about your answer, it was really appropriate for that age to answer in that way, to start opening up the conversation about drugs and the impact of drug use. He's, I'm sure, already very aware and seeing stuff all around him. Unfortunately, at 14, what kids see is way beyond what they're developmentally able to really figure out on their own. Sounds like you did a really good job opening up the conversation with him.